Kate, that's as good as it gets, my friend. That is as good as baseball gets. Did you ever think the Dodgers were going to do it? Going through the game up into that 11th inning pre-Will Smith home run, was the gut feeling to you Blue Jays are going to figure this out, or the Dodgers are going to be the inevitable?
I thought the Blue Jays were going to figure it out. I thought that they were going to get Rojas out. I thought they were going to pitch against Ohtani, and they were going to have that epic moment where they either strike him out or get Ohtani out, and you finally beat the big bad wolf who had been haunting you all World Series. And Rojas just steps in and plays one of the biggest spoiler moments in sports history. Just forget the fact that the Dodgers win it. The fact that Rojas is the one to do it, who literally hadn't hit a home run postseason.
September 18th. September 18th was his last home run.
And his last postseason home run, 2020, when he was a Miami Marlin. His last extra base hit, he has only had one extra base hit in the previous 20 postseason games that he's played in. If there was one person on the entire star-studded Dodgers lineup who was not going to get it past the infield or get any sort of ball in a corner, it was going to be Miguel Rojas. And he even said after the game, I wasn't trying to hit a home run, but Hoffman just put up this beautiful slider right in the middle of the plate. And all you got to do is put bat to ball, and the power from Rojas just put it over the field. And my eyes went so wide when that happened. It's like, oh my goodness. Like, you have never heard a crowd with so many people go so silent all at one time. Suck the air completely out of the building.
I mean, let's think about this for a second. The Dodgers were probably not the better team throughout the series. The Blue Jays consistently got more offense on board. They consistently got more men on bases. They consistently pitched a little creatively. You can make the argument that Ohtani did not pitch up to his standard. Blake Snell definitely did not pitch up to his standard. Tyler Glasnow even wasn't great. It was Yamamoto being otherworldly good and a mixture of good bullpen relief appearances. And, Blake Snell pitched well yesterday for the most part, but it was really a trial by committee with what we saw from the Dodgers yesterday. Let's put this into perspective for yesterday. The last two games, Mookie Betts had the 2-run single to put them ahead in that Game 6 game, which was as dramatic as it gets as well. And Mookie Betts, who hasn't done anything this postseason, that was his moment. And then you had Kike Hernandez, who was able to get that little drop on Addison Barger after catching that ball in left center field with one out in the bottom of the ninth with Addison Barger on second, was able to throw Barger out, who made a crucial base running error by leading off of second base. Kike makes his move, makes his play, and Dodgers escape to a Game 7. Move into Game 7. Shohei Ohtani doesn't save you. It's not Freddie Freeman who saves you. It was Max Muncy in the 8th who sort of just gave the team a little bit of a spark because of Trey Savage, who has been outstanding, mowing everybody down, was able to get through Muncy there. There's a chance that they still go to him throughout the ninth. And if he doesn't give up that one pitch that gets the Dodgers a little bit of life, this is probably a different series. Max Muncy is part of the reason that they're able to get back into this. On top of that, we talked about it, Miguel Rojas. So this is Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, Kike Hernandez, and Miguel Rojas to save the Dodgers season to this point. On top of that, yes, I know you go to Yamamoto in that spot, but Blake Snell came in relief right before Yamamoto. He left 2 runners on with Yamamoto coming in, but that was a guy who hasn't been able to throw a strike all series long and was able to get through that. That was another guy who kind of pulled his weight in that game. We know how great Yamamoto was, most important player in the series, but on top of that, let's continue with this for a second. Miguel Rojas to Will Smith, both of them making that play at home to make the force out with bases loaded. That was the go-ahead out. And Miguel Rojas, not only with the quick thinking to get the ball to home, but in all seriousness, it probably saved their season. Will Smith just getting his toe down in a 10th of a second that he needed to do that. And one thing I didn't even bring up, just go back to Game 6. How about Justin Dean was in center field and allowed the ball to be wedgied and made a call in the heat of the moment. He was just subbed into center field. Heat of the moment, puts his hands up. Hey, that's a ground rule double. That should not score 2 runs. And it probably would have if that ball was able to bounce off the wall. Another huge play by one of the pieces of the Dodgers. And on top of that, you have Mookie Betts turning the play on 2, and you have Andy Pages in center field, who was just subbed in to save the game again with 2 outs in the ninth to not allow that deep fly ball to left center to drop. This has been a committee. This is how the Dodgers do it. It is somebody else every single game. You think that they're great with the star power. You think they got Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. They have so many studs. It's not just them. It is the back half of the lineup. Tommy Edman makes play after play every single game. It is about the island of other toys that they have available to them. That is why the Dodgers are so good. It is not because they spend, and it partially is not because they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on these 7 or 8 players. It's because they know how to select the perfect utility men to surround their stars. And that is exactly what it took to beat the Blue Jays, who was better than the Dodgers throughout the series. That was one of those games where you're looking around thinking, this is not just star power, big brooding team that is just so much more talented. This is about guys making unbelievable situational safe plays and not blowing the game. That was my ultimate takeaway coming out of it, was this is as much of a committee takes a village type of game that I've seen in quite a bit. That's what it takes. That's why the Dodgers were able to do it. They had the lowest World Series average for a World Series winning team in about 20 years. That is how inept offensively they were. And they were down 3-2 in both games in the Rogers Center in Toronto. That is baseball, Cade. That is baseball.
It was beautiful. It was so beautiful to watch. I have a really good baseball buddy of mine. We just kept texting each other like, this is beautiful to watch. This is just exactly what we all hope for in a big baseball game. And I'm super happy for Dave Roberts. So many times in these World Series, when the Dodgers come in, it's all about the roster, the big bats, the big arms, and everyone kind of looks towards the front office of the Dodgers being able to spend their money to get these players. How about Dave Roberts actually having a mind of a genius to be able to put fielders in, to be able to put pitchers in? And he really had, Pages in. You just mentioned Dean in Game 6. He made some lineup options from a batting perspective.
Starting Miguel Rojas?
Yeah, exactly. Right. He started Game 2 of the NLDS and didn't start again until Game 6 of the World Series. And that ultimately won them a championship. Dave Roberts was brilliant in this entire postseason, this entire World Series, and he deserves all the praise he can get. He is not just a man who knows how to deal with a whole bunch of superstars. He is a genius of a World Series manager, and he just crafted it all together. He knew exactly when pieces need to come together. So many times, managers will either get too nervous or they will try to overanalyze things.
Yeah,
exactly. Dave Roberts knows which players can do their jobs the best, and he lets them work. And sure enough, that's exactly what he did. Put him in at the right time, and the system, this incredibly crafted system, did its job last night. It was beautiful. Cinema.
First Game 7 that we've seen in about 6 years in Major League Baseball in the World Series level. And it puts a cap on one of the better postseasons we've had in years. And this is not just considering this specific series, but you could go down the list of all the great games that we have had in this last month. Some people say baseball needs to prolong its postseason. It needs to be longer. You need to have a longer series. I disagree, because now you get more opportunities to have huge, awesome games in high leverage situations. Go back to the Yankees and Red Sox. Yankees falling down 1-0 in that wild card series, 1-2, and they were able to get to a Game 3, which was as good as it gets with 2 rookies on the mound. If you go to the other side of things, Cubs-Padres Game 2. If you go to on top of that, you got Dodgers-Phillies Game 1 and then Game 4 with the dribbler bases loaded to a Ryan Kirkring who screwed up by throwing the ball at a home plate to allow them to get the winning run in at Dodger Stadium in the 11th inning. That was another huge game. Game 5 of the Mariners and Detroit Tigers. Cade Chumson, when I were in the City Play Studios in West Palm Beach, watching that till 1:30 in the morning, that 15 inning on a Friday night, a 5.5-hour expedition of a baseball game. And that's not even considering Game 1, which went 11 innings as well in that Tiger Mariner series. On top of that, you have, the Yankees stunk. Blue Jays Yankees was not a great series. But outside of that, in Blue Jays and the Mariners, Game 7 was as good as it gets with George Springer, the 2-run go-ahead shot, 3-run go-ahead shot, the home run to left field to take the lead in that Game 7 environment after trailing all game. And you have Shohei Ohtani, who in Game 4 against the Brewers put together 3 home runs in 6 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts. And then we go to the World Series, Kate, and we have Game 3, 18 innings, 6 hours, 40 minutes. Game 6, which was the wedgie game, the World Series wedgie game in the 9th inning. And then you have last night, which was a pandemonium, Game 7. That's just me off the top. That is right then and there about 10 or 12 great postseason games that you could think of just like that. That's why baseball's postseason at its core is the best when it is the best. That is awesome.
And I loved all the moments where it was not necessarily the superstars making the big plays. You know why we didn't have the Mets in this World Series? We didn't have the Red Sox coming down the stretch.
Yankees eliminated early.
Exactly. We had a whole lot of teams and a whole lot of players that really hadn't made names for themselves, and a lot of people got the spotlight, and you're almost looking at the next wave of superstars in the MLB. I mean, if you talk about the Toronto Blue Jays for a second, Vlad Guerrero Jr. had one of the greatest postseason runs of all time. Clement broke a record for the most hits in a single World Series. Bo Bichette, as an injured guy who could barely get to first base, had some of the biggest hits in the World Series, and coming into that, even though he didn't play that much. So even the Toronto Blue Jays themselves went to superstardom more than they were, having been in last place in their division last year and making a World Series run. Some of the losers even had big shining moments. And this right here, Colin, we always have, when there's not a lot of sports going on, when we're in the end of February, beginning of March, and there's not necessarily a lot of things cooking, we always have these genre debates about greatest postseasons, greatest sports, greatest whatever. This right here, the last 6 weeks, are the reason that MLB has a name for themselves in the postseason and could be considered to be the greatest postseason sport of all time. I would maybe throw the NFL in there just because it's one game at a time. But when you're talking about a sport that runs off of series and runs off of game sevens, the MLB is the peak of the mountain. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. And, I was thinking about this. Game 7 yesterday, obviously because of the implication, but in terms of a game itself, it was better than game 3. It was better than game 3 because game 3 had that inning 13 to inning 17 where you're thinking, good God, somebody get on base. But this was perfect. 11 innings, wasn't too long into the extras. That was one of the best postseason events I've watched all year. And just to throw a couple out there, Cade knows, last round Rory at the Masters also immediately comes to mind. You have a number of games in the NBA postseason, especially with the Indiana Pacers game 1 NBA final. Tyrese Halliburton hitting the game winner. Game 1 against the Knicks. Knicks and Tyrese Halliburton having that 12-point comeback with a minute to go and hitting that dribbler game tying 2 to at the end of regulation at Madison Square Garden. He does the choke signal with Reggie Miller in the stands. And then on top of that, the French Open, Sinner Alcaraz, Carlos Alcaraz down triple championship point to Yannick Sinner and is able to come back basically an hour and 45 minutes later to do a 5-set basically tie break against the world's number 1. That was as good as it gets. Ryder Cup day 3. I know it wasn't that dramatic, but it was dramatic. That last day of the Ryder Cup when the U.S. is knocking and we're right there. Let's think about this for a second. That enters that category. That is as good as baseball and as sports get that we'll see this year. It's better than any NCAA tournament game. It was better. There was a couple excellent game 2 of the Stanley Cup final. Oilers, Panthers comes to mind. But that series was over once you got into game 6. This was as good of a implicating sporting event as we've had all year. Those are the 4 or 5 that pop to mind. In terms of huge, crazy games. But that is where I stand. That is a top 3 event of the year, probably rivaling to me that Rory Masters and the French Open final between Alcaraz and Sinner.